Welcome back to the Stretch the Floor podcast. I'm Matt, and I'm joined by Venush, and we have had a day now, to let the Lakers championship sink in. How you feeling?
Yeah, it's pretty. I was gonna say it's pretty predictable, but neither of us predicted it. So
Yeah,
I guess it was an unpredictable turn of events. But their run just didn't have the same excitement that we would expect the LeBron run to have.
yeah. I mean, the Lakers went 16-5 in the playoffs. Only lost, only lost more than one game once, which was in the finals. Uh, really, I didn't expect this level of dominance from any one team. I definitely did not expect it from the Lakers, but
Yeah.
man, that this was not this was not a championship that I don't think the Lakers just walked into it, just
hmm
kind of walk through it. They faced some pretty tough opponents, and this LeBron performance, this is one of LeBron's best performances, I think, probably ever in a finals.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know about ever because those young LeBron performances were kind of crazy. If anything, I think this was his worst finals performance in a win.
You think, really?
Yeah, in a win. Obviously, like he's had his 2007 wasn't that good, but that was in a loss. I'm saying like in the 2012, 2013 ones, he was insane. Obviously, the 2016 one is his best one. So like, it's either this one or the what's it called, the one against the Oklahoma City Thunder that are kind of his worst performances. It's just crazy to say because LeBron's performance was so good that we're
I,
like, for any other NBA player, this would be their best performance ever in a series. But for LeBron James, like I'm gonna say his age is showing. Like he
I,
was not able to defensively lock up players that we expected him to for the whole game. Obviously, he did it for the fourth quarter and stuff, but man, I might say this might be only 2 more years left of LeBron, which is surprising, but not really.
I'm kind of surprised that's your takeaway because I mean I agree about the defense, sure, but I mean in the playoffs, 28, 11, and 9, uh, pretty good.
Yeah,
And then in the finals, he actually went up a level to where he averaged 30, 12, and 8.5 assists in the finals.
yeah,
And the number that kind of surprises me the most is 42% on threes on 6 attempts a game in the finals,
Mhm.
which is, I mean, he was making a lot of clutch threes, like,
I know.
especially what was that, four? Game four.
Yeah, the
LeBron hit
one
a
they
couple of
lost.
like 30
Yeah,
footers that just iced the game.
hmm
And I do agree that his age is showing because we see
yeah,
him playing a little bit differently than before. Like he's taking more jumpers than before.
yeah.
He's not just blowing by guys and going straight to the basket for dunks, but he's just kind of like slowly driving his way in. He's still stronger than any one player that anyone could throw at him.
hmm
Getting foul calls. Didn't get he got a couple of questionable calls because he's LeBron, obviously, but
Yeah.
I mean that's just how it works. I was super impressed by the finals. I think he completely deserved that finals MVP. I know we after game two we recorded and we said it should have been Davis,
hmm
but I think pretty much ever since then LeBron is the clear finals MVP. I think they definitely got that one right, not just based on the reputation.
Yeah, LeBron's stats are crazy, but in the like when we were watching the game, every time LeBron's been in the finals, it's been this is the best player by far out of like in the world, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And finally Anthony Davis and Jimmy Butler were like, yo, they're playing so good. Like they became comparable to LeBron. I wasn't saying they're better than LeBron, obviously, but the fact that someone was comparable to him wasn't even like comprehensible. Like during his prime, that wasn't like if Kevin Durant was the closest player that came to him
Mm-hmm.
in the 2012 finals, but like he still got lost. He still lost. So like the fact that someone was comparable to LeBron is what makes I don't know. Like it just didn't have the same impact of like LeBron steamrolling. This actually felt like a team, like a Lakers team beating the Miami Heat team. Whereas the other times it kind of just felt like LeBron and crew beating their NBA.
So yeah, I do agree with you. This definitely did feel like a team effort, especially like
Mhm.
KCP. I mean, KCP was probably the third best player in the finals
Yeah,
for this championship team. Rondo probably would have been next after
fourth.
that.
Yeah.
But um, you say Jimmy was close, and the thing is,
He
Jimmy had a
was.
few games in this finals that were LeBron-esque, very close to LeBron, and
Hmm.
the media, especially the social media, kind of just exploded with all this love for Jimmy Butler. But then in Game 6, in a must-win game, I'm not gonna say he choked, but he kind of came back to crashing down to earth with 12 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists.
Yeah,
Um, and LeBron just casually puts up a 30-point triple double every night. I don't want to be one of those guys that say we take LeBron for granted,
yeah,
but I mean, when LeBron scores a 30-point triple double every night and it's not really a big deal, I
hmm,
think there's a clear gap between him and a guy like Jimmy Butler, I think.
yeah. The thing is, it's just it's like perception of the greatest of all time, right? Like when Jordan was on his peak, like no one was comparable. That's why when LeBron was on his peak, I feel like people underrate LeBron's peak,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like it's disrespectful for 2012 LeBron to say this LeBron James is comparable to him because like that LeBron is such a big difference maker, and I feel like people just have to acknowledge LeBron's adapted to play with less energy. He's
Yeah,
adapted
he
to
has.
play with
He has.
he's the smartest basketball player in the NBA right now, and he's able to adapt to conserve energy and play at a older age. And the way he plays just doesn't seem as dominant. You know what I mean? Like when you're scoring a bunch of points,
Mm-hmm.
which he did in that 40-point game, he seemed so dominant. But when you're passing and playmaking, you don't seem as dominant for a viewer. But obviously, we still know his dominance when we look at the stat sheet at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I I understand. Yeah, I get that because LeBron, even in this finals, even how dominant he was in the finals, even the whole playoffs, he never really had a bunch of those runs, those like Jamal Murray runs where he scores like 12 points in a row or whatever. Even like Anthony Davis had a bunch of those too. He just kind of scores 6, 8 points a quarter, just like
Yeah,
all spread out.
yeah,
Um, Always controlling the pace of the game. Always not one team, not one player on any team that they went up against had an answer for him. When he
yeah,
decides to just take it in, he's like, I'm gonna get a foul call. I'm gonna get an and one. He just gets it. That's He's just stronger than everyone else. He's not as
yeah,
explosive or energetic as he used to be, like you said. But when he wants to get it done, he just gets it done.
yeah. And the another thing that people, I guess, that shading LeBron's, because all that's gonna come about this is LeBron praise. We
Yeah,
obviously think he's still the best player in the world. We're just saying now that he's closer to
the
two
gap
and
is
three,
smaller. Yeah.
yeah, than ever before. And we're just trying to say this as in how many years does this LeBron have as the best player in the world? Because we want to still witness him and appreciate the when he is the best player in the world. Because players like Jordan, it kind of just happened out of the thin air because he
Mm-hmm.
retired and he just didn't return the same.
Yeah.
Kobe got injured, didn't return the same. Shaq got injured and traded with the Heat, never was the same.
Yeah.
Tim Duncan was just great, 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 great. And then LaMarcus Aldridge came and Tim Duncan kind of fell off a cliff too. So like all these great players, it just happens so subtly that we don't realize it. But I feel like
Mm-hmm.
for LeBron, like it's inevitable that's gonna happen. And I think 2 more years and then this might be it.
Well, so I think I look at it a bit differently than you because I was one of the guys coming into this season, even coming into the playoffs,
Hmm.
where I was like LeBron. The gap is not just smaller; the gap has been overtaken by Kawhi
Yeah.
Leonard and Giannis.
Yeah.
Um,
What a
and
bad take.
I quickly realized that that's wrong. LeBron was
Yeah.
just injured last year
Yeah.
and didn't have a good enough team. Uh, and you cannot, not one person can make the argument for Kawhi or Giannis over LeBron right now. Not
Anyone
even
over
just
Giannis.
because,
Yeah.
not even just based on accomplishments. Not like you could say LeBron had a better player beside him than any one of those guys could
Hmm.
ever have. But even just in a pure basketball sense, he's just better than those two guys. And
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone says. I was on the Kawhi train, I was on the Giannis train, but LeBron is still clearly the best in the world. He's going into year 18. He's still the number one player in the world. You say he may only have 2 years left, and I think in year 18, going into his age
Yeah.
36 season,
36. Yeah.
I think that's kind of just icing on the cake at this point. Like I don't know.
Really?
I there were some signs of slowing down, but I don't see anything major. His game has definitely changed, but he's still, like I said, probably the strongest player in the league.
Hmm.
Um, and no, I don't. I literally can't think of one player who can guard him when he wants to score. Now
Yeah.
the question is he going to be able to sustain that intensity for these like long seasons and long playoffs. How many more times is he going to be able to do that? I don't know. But I think at this point, he still has to be the best player in the world.
Yeah, and usually for great players, like they know how to adapt to the game with their athleticism, and they know how to train well enough. That's usually an injury that takes them out. The Kobe's
Mm-hmm.
with the Achilles, Karl Malone with an injury on the Lakers. Michael Jordan got out of play, like he wasn't the same playing weight when he was returned with the Wizards, which cost him his career kind of. Uh, like Kareem just was really old at 40. Like
Yeah.
it's rarely age. Besides Kareem, no one really lost it to because of age. And Kareem was so long into his 40s. And the reason I'm saying all these things about LeBron is because LeBron kind of got unlucky because next season's going to be a shortened season. This season was
Mm-hmm.
a shortened season.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole championship is just going to be about LeBron's legacy. Like, it sucks for Anthony Davis, sucks for all these other players, but when LeBron wins a championship, all you can think about is like his legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And for him, for another huge feat in his like legacy would be getting the most points. And that's why I'm just wondering, like, can
Yeah.
that happen too now?
Yeah, that is really true. But you could also say that if the season never stopped and LeBron didn't get 5 months off to recover his 35-year-old body, would they still have won the championship? Maybe they were favorites going into the season. They were the ones seeded in the West. Maybe, but it's just a question.
Yeah. And we also have to talk about Anthony Davis' legacy too, because
Yeah.
Kevin Garnett never won a finals MVP. He won one MVP, he won
Mm-hmm.
one championship, and he won one defensive player of the year. If LeBron leaves, I would say Anthony Davis. Like when LeBron retires, I would say Anthony Davis is probably up there with Luka Doncic to win favorite for like MVP.
I agree.
Defensive player of the year, he was already second. He's probably gonna get it next year. So like his accolades are kind of stacking up comparable to Kevin Garnett at the age of
Yeah.
26, 27.
Yeah.
So does he have a shot at Tim Duncan?
I mean, man, it feels like LeBron has won his championship and he's won his Finals MVP with the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it would be as shocking if, let's say, they're in the finals next year, if
Yeah,
they kind of concede that and let Davis take the torch now, right? LeBron had his
yeah,
moment. He's going to be 36. So I can definitely see that. And I mean, Anthony Davis didn't win Finals MVP, but if someone voted for him, I would not have thought that was outrageous because he averaged 25, 11, and 3 with 2 blocks in the finals. Um, and his defense was just that was some of the best defense we've ever seen, really, like
mhm,
by anyone, anytime.
yeah,
And one more thing I want to say is you think of this Laker team as two sort of non-shooters, LeBron and Davis, surrounded by these floor spacers, but LeBron shot 42% from three in the
yeah,
finals, and Davis shot 41%.
yeah,
And when that's happening, I'm sorry, but just no one's going to beat you. If LeBron and Davis are hitting 41% of the threes, they're not losing.
yeah. The thing with Tim Duncan is that he has 5 championships. He has 3 finals MVPs. So obviously Anthony Davis has to do a lot more. He has to win a lot more. But being with the Lakers, a franchise that is able to get free agents,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm pretty sure they can replace not a LeBron, but they can maybe get 2 players that are near max to support Davis. Like we could easily be seeing like the best power forward playing right now. Like obviously, I don't want to take anything from Tim Duncan because he's a top 10 player
Yeah,
all time,
yeah.
and he would be a lot higher if he was one shot. If that Ray Allen shot missed and he was 6
Mm-hmm.
and 0 in the finals, he would be a lot higher. So yeah, like it's crazy because we haven't seen 2 potential top 10 players play together in our whole life. Like I guess Kobe and Shaq, but that was when we were 2 years old.
Yeah,
uh, Magic and Kareem, that was when we
we were
weren't
like
even
negative
born.
20. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, and both those happened with the Lakers as well. So it's
Yeah.
just crazy to think that Lakers have had these 3 duos that are all
Yeah.
potential top 10 players.
Yeah. And we saw Davis as the best player on a team before, but the front office decisions by the Pelicans were kind of questionable, and they didn't really have the best team around it. They got unlucky with the Boogie Cousins injury
Yeah.
too. Um, but if, like you're right, if and when LeBron decides to move on, retire, pass the torch, whatever, and it's Davis's team, and they actually put the right players around him, he really could he could put together that kind of legacy. It's not out of the question. We saw him in the finals.
Yeah,
Was the best player on the floor a lot of the nights, and yeah, nothing really else to say.
yeah. And Magic Johnson himself talked about this. He was shouting Luka Doncic on the top of his lungs. Man, if they get a player like
My
that, Anthony
God,
Davis might he might be able to pass Tim Duncan, and it's gonna be crazy to watch
I don't
because
even want to imagine that. That's just crazy. I can't even picture that.
yeah, that would be crazy.
So I think before we move off the finals, I just want to shout out Jimmy Butler a little bit. Um, 43 minutes a game in the finals. He played 47 minutes and 13 seconds in game 5. Rested for a total of 47 seconds,
Yeah,
and average of 26, 8, and 10. And I think he's just. We talked about this a little bit last podcast. I think maybe he's just gone up a level. I think in the league where we have to look at him differently now in the league and even in history. I think.
yeah. I think this is the first time that we both will agree that Jimmy Butler can lead a team to a championship. I wouldn't have said that before. I said he has to be a second or even a third
Yeah,
option for a
yeah.
team. But now it's acceptable. Like if he gets another player that can shoot and score
Mm-hmm.
with Bam as like the third option, this is a championship double team.
I was just gonna say that I don't know if Jimmy Butler can be the best player every single night on a championship team, just like the
Hmm.
clear number one. But he can be the leader of a championship team. He can be the
Yeah,
guy who's the best player almost every night, but maybe not the guy that just gets the team over that hump. But yeah, if you told me that a year ago, 2 years ago, I would have laughed at you. And
yeah.
now it's not. It's a legitimate opinion, a legit take to say that Jimmy Butler can lead a team to a championship,
And
and
people
he
have to realize with Jimmy Butler, the last Chicago Bulls appearance in the playoffs, Jimmy was there. Last
yeah.
Timberwolves playoff
Mm-hmm.
experience, Jimmy was there. Last 76ers playoff win, Jimmy was there. And now
Yeah,
Miami's in the finals. So
yeah.
like he's a winner. He's proven it and I think he's building a Hall of Fame resume after the
I think so. And
yeah.
he's back in the gym today. He posted or whatever
Hmm.
on IG.
Yeah.
He's back in the gym today. How could you not love this guy? I mean, I'm gonna admit I did kind of find Jimmy kind of annoying back in his like Timberwolves days when I don't know, it just seemed like he's always starting controversies. He was like
Yeah.
planning these strategically timed interviews with Rachel Nichols and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but he's become one of my favorite players in the league this year. Just like how
Yeah.
hard he works and just his mentality and everything, and how well he led this Miami team. The way he led this team reminded me a little bit of how Kawhi led the Raptors last year. Just like everyone kind of
I don't know about that.
not I don't mean in terms of his play, but just in terms of his like attitude and not getting too high, not getting too low, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I just saw that a
Yeah.
little bit.
I've seen people bashing Kawhi Leonard a lot because he
Yeah.
obviously didn't put up a challenge against LeBron. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to mention Kawhi too much because he shouldn't get a shine right now. But
No.
at the end of the day, he had a Michael Jordan-esque run, a LeBron James-esque run last year. And the only players who won a championship with a run like that is Michael Jordan and LeBron James. So that run is always going to be special. And it's probably going to be Kawhi's career highlight. So we'll
Yeah,
just leave it at that.
I agree with that. And the thing
Yeah.
is, I don't. This is the last Kawhi thing.
Yeah.
Has the window already closed on the Clippers taking LA and the
Oh,
Clippers
yeah.
being the team in LA? Kawhi, it's already over. Even if Kawhi wins a championship next year, he's not the king of LA.
Yeah.
It's not happening. It's over.
Like it's to a certain extent where Kawhi to the Raptors has become realistic. And I
Honestly, it
just I
has.
just think
Yeah,
I just think that's funny because
yeah,
when he first signed with the LA, it was like locked in stone that was where he's gonna end his career kind of.
yeah,
But now Kawhi to Toronto is a realistic signing.
yeah. I don't know. I don't know if they're
Yeah,
gonna take him back. Well,
they 100% will.
yeah, 100%. Um, okay, so one more thing about the Lakers, I want to. We kind of mentioned this last week. But they have Danny Green's 15 million expiring,
Yeah,
KCP's 8.5 million expiring,
Kuzma.
Kuzma 3.5 million expiring, and they have
Uh-huh.
their first round pick this year.
Yeah.
The draft kind of sucks, but whatever. It's a first round pick.
Mhm.
This Laker team could be a lot better next year
Yeah.
because some of the players that were the biggest players in this playoffs, KCP, Rondo, I mean, everyone else kind of sucked. Markieff Morris had a couple of good games. You can find these guys for absolutely nothing, like
Yeah,
off the scrap heap, like literally. And like, what's that Horton Tucker guy? I don't even
he's
know
a
his name. Like
rookie.
he could easily play 15 minutes a game for them next year or whatever and be decent.
Oh, and he also has trade value. Remember, he's a rookie that just won a
Yeah,
championship and has playoff experience. Like,
yeah,
he's worth at least something. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
like, combining Kuzma, combining that first round pick, combining Dalen Horton, and combining Danny Green, I'm just gonna say Buddy Hield is gonna be like a lock for this Lakers team. And the reason I say that is because you need to re-sign Fox, you need to re-sign Bagley. You have Harrison Barnes, 22 million on a 3 year. You have to re-sign Holmes because he played great at
Mm-hmm.
the center spot, and you have to re-sign this summer Bogdanovich.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of money. The Kings are gonna come up for, and they have the 13th pick. And people realize Buddy Hield is already 29, so he's not a young guy that matches with
Mm-hmm.
Fox and Bagley's age. And a team that's looking for salary cap, you get Kyle Kuzma, you get a first round pick, you get Danny Green's 15 million expiring. Hey, that seems like a good trade in my opinion.
That's a decent trade. And
Yeah,
I mean, opinions on Kuzma are kind of different everywhere you
yeah,
look, but and he didn't really show much in the playoffs or in the finals. But you can see sparks of it sometimes.
yeah,
And he's at least an interesting trade piece,
yeah,
an
100%.
expiring deal. Yeah, Buddy Hield is definitely an option. He played with Davis before. Um,
Yeah, he did. I forgot about that.
yeah,
Yeah,
I completely forgot. He's kind of young, but he's been all over the place. But he played with Davis, so I don't know. Maybe they have some chemistry there.
yeah.
Um, yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
AB
But I
Bradley's
think,
returning.
yeah, this Laker team could be even better next year, and
Yeah,
that's scary. Now,
much
like
better.
record wise, they might be like
They
not quite as good because of the weird season it's going to be in LeBron and his age and
rest.
everything. But
Yeah,
when it comes to playoff time, they could be even better, and that's crazy. I think.
yeah. And picking up a player like not Danny Green, picking up a player like Buddy Hield is going to
Yeah.
be a huge improvement because everyone else is a good defender, so you could kind of
Mm-hmm.
hide him. And someone like Buddy Hield could get you easy like 16, 17
Oh my
points
god,
consistently, which
easily.
they did not have
Like,
other than LeBron and Davis, obviously. And when you have that consistent third player that can score at a clip like that,
mm-hmm.
it's just going to make LeBron's role easier because instead of sagging a double team onto LeBron, no one's coming off Buddy Hield. Like they're
Yeah,
staying on him. So
yeah.
it's going to be a lot easier if they get a shooter like him.
Like Buddy Hield is not some all-star level
Yeah.
MVP player, but you look at the team that they had on the floor for this finals, and if you put Buddy Hield on there, he would have been far and away the third best player on the team,
Mm,
and this probably would have been a sweep for the
yeah.
Lakers. And that's just insane. How and they could basically put the same level team, just adding a guy like that next year. Let's see
Yeah.
if Rob Pelinka pulls it off.
And people don't realize that there are those guards that can play like defense and shoot. So much of them are in the trade market right now, with Drew Holiday being like the number one option, Victor
Yeah.
Oladipo being the second option,
Mm-hmm.
Eric Bledsoe being like the third option, and then
Mm-hmm.
Buddy Hield being like the fourth option. That's why I gave Buddy Hield to the Lakers because I think those other three will get bigger and better trade offers. But if three teams already trade for those other guys, there's not going to be that much of a market for a Buddy Hield type player, and the Lakers could sweep in and get their third star.
Yeah. We'll see. The off season is going to be starting really soon. We're going to have a lot of different
Mhm.
like trade episodes, obviously draft coverage, free agent stuff, but
Yeah,
it's going to take a couple weeks before that starts up. I think before we wrap this, we need to. I think now that the season's officially over, the bubble was a huge success. I think we need to look back and kind of just recap. It's kind of crazy how it seems so long ago,
yeah,
like when those exhibition games were happening, right?
yeah. The 8-0
That
Suns.
Yeah, the 8-0 Suns. Like even before that, when they had those like preseason, pre-bubble
Oh
games, that
yeah,
just seems like so long ago. But I mean, remember right when we recorded our first episode of the podcast, it was in such doubt whether or not this was even going to happen. I was like 50-50. I was even like maybe like 40-60 on it whether or not it was going to happen.
yeah,
We were saying, is this championship going to be an asterisk championship? This doesn't.
yeah.
I don't know about you, but this does not feel like
No,
an asterisk championship at all. I don't know how you
not
could
at
watch
all.
that and say there's an asterisk on this championship.
Yeah,
But I mean, we got some crazy performances. We had a lot of guys. We already did a winners and losers episode of the bubble, but that was before the playoffs started, so that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I think we could probably just talk a little bit about some of the guys who raised their stocks in the bubble. We don't need to be negative and talk about Pascal Siakam or anything,
Yeah.
but I don't know, like who's your one of your guys who just raised his stock?
So like everyone on the Suns, like
Yeah,
Cam Johnson
yeah,
became, he's not a household name, I don't want to say that,
no,
but he's a NBA fanatics like household name. Like if you're a real NBA fan, you know who Cam Johnson is now. We didn't know him before this
yeah,
bubble, or we didn't
yeah,
rate him before this bubble, and he's established himself as a starter. He's gonna start like for the rest of his
hundred
career.
percent,
He'll start.
100%.
He's probably a top 15 power forward. How good he played, and how good he rebounded and shot the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Mikal Bridges definitely raised his stock value, and probably the starting three now, which is kind of worrying for Kelly Oubre. Devin Booker, I think we expect him to be in like MVP conversations next year rather than
I
just
think he
being
should be. Yeah,
just an All Star.
yeah,
And that team also has the biggest bust potential too, because if they don't make the playoffs, big
which is a
changes
very
must
real
happen.
possibility.
Yeah, very real possibility with the Warriors returning.
Yeah,
So, like, that's kind of scary for them, but hopefully
yeah,
they live up to the risk and all the hype and pressure that's on them now.
yeah.
And obviously, every single Laker, because they won a championship,
Obviously.
like Anthony Davis' stock, he went from top 7 player to maybe arguing for top 5. Uh, who else? LeBron's stock obviously went up. He's getting closer and closer to
Mm-hmm.
Michael Jordan.
Rondo stock went up. KCP.
Yeah, Rondo's going to be in the league for another 2 years at least.
Yeah, yeah.
Dwight Howard's going to be in the league for another year. JaVale McGee's going to be in the league for another year. J.R. Smith, I don't know about you, but
I don't know about JR. Yeah.
yeah. Carmelo stock too. We forgot to mention
Oh
him.
my. Yeah. Yeah.
He's guaranteed in the league next year.
Oh yeah.
Before the
100%.
before the
Yeah.
bubble, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
That
No.
could have been his farewell tour. Yeah,
Yeah, you're right. And this is kind of an obvious one. But Damian Lillard kind
yeah,
of went from a guy who we all knew was unbelievable and like a all NBA type guard, but
yeah,
now it's like, is he a top 8, 7 player in the league? Maybe can
yeah.
he win an MVP? Uh, and
I,
some of the most clutch performances we've seen in a long time at least in the pre-playoffs, in like the seeding games and stuff like that,
yeah.
which kind of
Before,
felt more important than normal regular season games when they were going
yeah,
on.
before I had Curry like a miles ahead of everyone in the point guard list,
Yeah.
and then I had Dame as a close, like a distant second, and now it's like Dame has entered the Curry
Mm-hmm.
range. He's obviously not better than Curry, but he's in the range where if someone said he's better than Curry and listed out a couple reasons, you would actually listen to them rather than just be like, no chance.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's still not better than Curry, but he's entering that range, and it's gonna be interesting because he is 30 years old, so he needs to get some of those rings behind him, but he's
Mm-hmm.
not gonna ring chase. So this Portland team, if it has another disappointing season, they might blow it up too.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. We'll get into that when we do our off-season
Yeah,
predictions and stuff like that. And I think uh, there's 4 young guys who really kind of went to another level from the bubble. Donovan Mitchell,
yeah,
Luka Doncic, obviously, Jamal Murray, obviously,
yeah,
and Jason Tatum. I think went to another level too. I
yeah,
think I think we look at Jason Tatum as, like we kind of said before, the second best player in the East if you don't
hmm
count KD,
yeah.
which
Well,
is
I don't know
insane
about
to say.
anymore. I think Jimmy took that
Mm,
spot back from him, and he kind of slipped down to 3 or 4 if we
okay,
count
but
KD.
we look at Jason Tatum as a guy who can lead a team, maybe not
The
to a
championship.
championship just yet, but at
Yeah,
least the finals right now. But it wouldn't be out of the question for a championship. Jamal
yeah,
Murray looks like he can be the second best player beside Nikola Jokic. If he can play 90% of what he did in the playoffs, then he 100% can do that. Um, Luka Doncic, if there was any doubts about him and if he was actually going to be the type of player who was winning in the playoffs, I think those doubts have all gone away from what we
yeah.
saw against the Clippers, even though they lost the series. Who did I miss? Is that it?
Donovan Mitchell.
Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah,
Uh, seems like a long time ago, but went toe to toe with Jamal Murray. Almost ended the Nuggets, who went
yeah.
on to be in the conference finals.
Finals.
Donovan Mitchell is now the clear. I mean, there was kind of a, is it who's more important to the team, Gobert or Mitchell? Who do you
It's
keep? Whatever.
obvious now.
It's clearly Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah,
And he's only going to get better next year, I think.
yeah,
But I do think that front office needs to make some important.
changes. Because
They need to make some changes and build
yeah,
a team that fits better around him
they
because
also getting
he's a special
Bogdanovich
player. We've
back,
seen that. Yeah,
a
yeah,
20-point scorer.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think the only player that we've seen move teams already is Marc Gasol. It's kind of a rumor, but a
Mm.
very stated rumor that he's going to Spain. So other than that, there's no other movements or rumors that are happening so far. Montrez to the Raptors.
There's some Montrez to the Raptors rumors,
Yeah,
but
those don't really have any significant value.
not really.
Yeah, and with this bubble, can you see another one happening? Or no?
Well, I think they've been talking about pushing the start of the season into March. I think
Mhm.
fans are the number one priority for the league. If they start the season in March, I guess the timeline would be the same one as it was now. It would probably go into like October,
October. Yeah,
maybe even later. I don't know. I don't see another bubble happening. I think
yeah,
they want to use the NFL model that's going on right now. Um, Everyone plays in their own stadium, limited fans. Obviously, there's going to be some outbreaks, but who knows what the world's going to look like in March? We have no way of predicting that. It's been
yeah,
working decently well for the NFL. Somehow, it's still going on, even though they've had multiple full team outbreaks.
yeah,
Um, but I think that's probably what it's going to look like next year.
yeah. And I think that's kind of guaranteed because if you look at the ratings, it's a third of last year's
Yeah,
finals,
yeah,
and it had LeBron James and the Lakers in it, and it was still a third. So yeah, this is the last time we're gonna see a bubble. Also,
I agree.
in a bubble
Yeah,
for the playoffs in 8 games, and people were so exhausted of it. They're like, "Oh my god, of the bubble!" And you
yeah.
expect them to do a 60-game regular season and the
No way.
playoffs in a bubble? No
No way.
chance. No chance it's happening again. So we just watched a one in a lifetime bubble experience. It kind of felt like a college or like a high school AAU tournament where they kind of just stayed in hotels,
Mm-hmm.
played basketball, and then went back to the hotel and just like played cards with each other or something. And it was crazy to see because we got those like, great vlogs from it too when the 76ers were still in.
Yeah,
Matisse's vlogs were making headway. JaVale McGee's vlogs was throughout the whole bubble, which is a good thing. It's kind of crazy to see that this the a once in a lifetime season, the longest NBA season of ever, and we might have before the NHL season and the NBA season were always aligned.
mm-hmm.
They ended maybe a month or 2 months apart.
It was usually like, yeah, a couple of
Yeah,
weeks at most. Yeah.
and then the NFL season was completely separate,
Mm-hmm.
so they never competed with viewership. But now with all these adjustments and changes, viewership might just be different than what it was before COVID.
Yeah. Uh, I think the NBA quickly learned that it doesn't
Hmm.
want to go up against football.
Yeah,
Because some garbage games were
yeah,
beating some really big playoff games in ratings.
hmm
That's just not something you want to try. And I want to go back to what you're saying. This is probably going to be, when we look back on this season, probably the most memorable sports season in like the last, I don't even know how long.
yeah. Definitely
Um,
up there.
and we just got we just got finished. Not just, it was like 5 months ago, but The Last Dance, that documentary. I'm just wondering if there's going to be a doc coming out of the bubble.
Oh,
There had to be a
100%.
camera crew there, right?
100% on
That's going
LeBron
to be
too.
a good documentary. I wonder when that's going to come out, because
Yeah,
that's going to be really really cool to see.
yeah. They're just waiting for LeBron to retire because if this is his last championship, it'll be like LeBron's last dance or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, like it's gonna be a big documentary. It's gonna be the bubble. That's probably gonna be called. It's gonna be.
probably.
We've never had a season like this ever for all sports,
Yeah.
and it's just gonna be talked about so much because we've never had professional athletes are still humans at the end of the day. After they finish their job, they have a family they go back to, they see, they like live normal lives. But when this bubble happened, they kind of were like kind of guinea pigs, kind of. They just had to stay in like this little bubble, and like all they could do was fish and like play golf. Like they
Yeah.
weren't allowed to do a lot, so it's kind of
Yeah.
crazy.
It doesn't feel like, in the moment, because the whole world is so messed up right now, it doesn't really
Mhm.
feel that weird. But
Yeah.
in 10, 15, 20 years, when we look back, we're going to be like, wait, what? They had like the entire NBA staying in 5
Yeah.
hotels in Disney World and they couldn't leave. And they
Yeah.
got in trouble for like ordering DoorDash and like
Yeah.
picking it up. It's just insane.
It's
And
gonna be
that,
amazing.
yeah, that documentary that's going to come out in like 10 years or whatever that's going to be crazy. I can't wait
Like
for that.
they made millionaires just stay in a
Yeah.
hotel
Yeah.
and
They're
play
not
golf
allowed
and
to see their
basketball,
families for like a month and a half until they're like, man,
quarantined out and
when you say
everything.
it out loud, it just sounds insane.
Yeah,
But that's just the world we live in right now.
like I'm pretty sure like as a fan, like you obviously see that lifestyle and you're like, oh, they're getting paid millions of dollars and they just have to like enjoy themselves like a
Yeah.
vacation kind of.
Yeah.
But having a vacation by yourself where you just have a goal, it's not really a vacation. And especially when you're an older player who has kids and stuff, it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely a tumultuous time. And we also have to talk about those players who opted out of the bubble too, or they didn't even make the bubble, like
Yeah.
the Atlanta Hawks, the New York Knicks, like those teams, how
Warriors.
they felt. Yeah, the Warriors, probably the biggest, most
Mm-hmm.
newsworthy franchise that didn't make the bubble. And a lot of people are already talking about the next season because of how. Would you say this was a lackluster finals?
Probably. I don't honestly basketball wise, it
It
was pretty
wasn't.
fun to
Yeah.
watch. I don't know, there were injuries. We got
Mhm.
some awesome LeBron and Anthony Davis and Jimmy Butler performances, but I don't even know if it's the basketball that was at fault. It's just like the atmosphere that they win the championship and confetti starts falling from the ceiling
Yeah.
and it's just like no one there. They're just kind of celebrating on their own.
Yeah.
Every big shot that happened, it's you can even barely hear the fake crowd noise. You don't see
Yeah.
you don't feel that home court advantage that's so important in the playoffs, and that just has a lot to do with it, I think.
But like the last three finals, like you expected the Warriors to win those two, and they did win
Yeah,
those two pretty
yeah,
easily. The Raptors, you expected them to win every game where Kevin Durant wasn't playing, and
hmm
he played 3 minutes. So like the Raptors were heavily expected to win that series too with no Kevin Durant. So like those two series were, in my opinion, less competitive than this series.
yeah. I agree, and it's weird
It's
to
just the
think how
fans.
this feels lackluster compared to those when the basketball was better,
Yeah,
and LeBron is the number one ratings getter that the league
ever.
has ever had, other than Michael Jordan,
Other than Michael
and
Jordan. Yeah,
maybe it really is the fans. Maybe that's it.
yeah, and if that's the case, which I'm pretty sure that's the same assumption and same like conclusion that the Adam Silver and the NBPA and stuff are coming to,
Yeah.
we might, yeah, basketball might be done till March.
Yeah, it's going to be a long off season. It is October, so it's mid October, so we got like October, November, December, January, February. It's going to be like a good 6 months before
Yeah,
basketball starts
a
up
lot of
again.
top 10 lists.
A lot of top 10 lists, but at least the next 2 to 3 months are going to be all right because we got the draft. We're going to go like hard into the draft, a lot of in depth draft stuff. We got like trade. We're going to probably predict a million trades, free
Yeah,
agency. So we're going to be good till about January, probably. And then it's really going to be like top 10.
yeah.
I can't even think of it off the top of my head right now.
The question is the free agency going to be a lot slower because they have so much time to negotiate deals, or is
Yeah,
it going to be quick?
I can't even think about like when even is the free agency like deadline? Do we even know?
Well, it's usually like 2 weeks before the season starts,
Hmm.
so we don't
Interesting.
have that. And there's players like Kawhi who took their time last year
Yeah.
to like see where other players landed and see other
Yeah.
trades. He waited for the Paul George trade to happen. So like
Mhm.
our players just gonna like wait it out this free agency where it's like, man, I'm not signing till like this happens, that happens. Or is there even a big player that could demand that type of that type of trade in this draft class or in this
Is
free
there?
agency class?
I mean Anthony Davis is going to be a free agent, but he's like
Mhm.
102% signing for the Lakers
Yeah,
again. Um I don't
DeMar
know.
DeRozan is taking
DeMar
his.
DeRozan, Andre Drummond, uh
They're all opting in to their
yeah,
player.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. I mean, I there's definitely like some more
Fred VanVleet is the biggest free agent.
Is Fred VanVleet the number one free agent?
That's so weird.
Montrezl Harrell, I don't know, man.
Fred VanVleet and Montrezl Harrell are the number one free agents.
That sounds so wrong, but I'm gonna have to go back and double check that after this.
I
But
think it's right.
that
Yeah,
actually might be right. I
yeah.
mean, Fred VanVleet received the Finals MVP vote last year.
And he's gonna re-sign with the Raptors.
Yeah,
It seems like
but
Nick Nurse.
you can no longer say defending champion Fred VanVleet though. That's
Yeah,
the thing.
after what,
Pretty sad.
18 months?
Yeah, pretty much. It's been a full. It's like October 13th today, so it's been a full calendar year since this season started.
Yeah, so
So it's really been like 18 months, like
16, 17
16 to
months.
18 months. Yeah, that's
Yeah, wow.
longest run as defending champs in NBA history.
Yeah,
Toronto Raptors.
and Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, we had to talk about Jeff Van Gundy getting all these interviews.
Oh, right. Oh, sorry. The one thing I was going to say is the NBA is allowing teams to meet in person with
Mhm.
draft eligible players. So I wonder if that's going to carry over to free agency, or if they're just going to. I imagine it would. If they're doing it for the draft, they're probably going to do it for free agency, right?
I think they're just doing the draft to get medicals on players because they have no medicals right now, and they just want to know who's injured and
Okay.
who's
Okay.
not.
Okay.
Because like MPJ's medical is what caused them to drop to 14 from out of the top five.
Yeah.
So a player like Anthony Edwards or LaMelo Ball, hopefully they have good medicals. But if they don't, they can obviously drop too. I
Mhm.
think it's just
That's
for
fair.
drafts, and I think they're going to do it for free agents who have an injury history. I can't think of any off the top of my head. Maybe if Gordon Hayward opts out for some reason,
Mhm.
like he would get it, but he's not opting out.
No,
Uh,
you think he's opting out?
yeah,
No chance.
yeah, and no draft headway has been made. Rockets have been looking heavy into Ty Lue, and it seems like they're gonna snag him up. Clippers have looked heavy into.
I'm staying away from the Rockets if I'm Ty Lue. I would if I can
Really?
get that Clippers job. I mean, obviously, if it's between assistant coaching again
Yeah,
and coaching the Rockets, I'm picking the Rockets. But I'd much rather coach the Clippers
yeah,
than the Rockets.
yeah. The
But
Rockets still have
that's
a
just
good
me.
team though, still a
Yeah.
championship caliber team. And
Mm,
Jeff Van Gundy has interviewed for every single head coaching
I don't
vacancy,
get that.
and he's making headway for the Pacers one now, which makes no sense because I thought he was only coming back for a championship team.
That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting to see what happens
Yeah,
because
we'll see. Yeah.
he has such bad philosophies. He hasn't coached in like 10 years. He still has it jump out to 3-point shooters, which is an insta foul every single time. So
Yeah.
the Pacers are gonna struggle if they get him.
Yeah. And yeah, we've still the only coaching hire we got was Doc
Doc.
to Philly. So we're gonna get a lot of coaching news over the next couple weeks probably.
Mhm.
Um, and we're gonna get some draft news. We're gonna get some trade news probably. So
Yeah,
we're gonna be covered for the next couple months until it gets really slow.
yeah. And
Um,
next week we're doing our top 10 list
yeah.
for
So I
best
think
players in the
so.
NBA.
We're coming up with the top 10 list already, but
Yeah,
next week. But I think it's a good time because, like we just said, so many guys' stock rose
yeah,
after the bubble, after the playoffs. I think we kind of need to just reassess and look back at the league. Where does Jimmy
yeah,
Butler land? Where does LeBron land? I mean, we know where LeBron lands, but
yeah.
where does that Anthony Davis land? All that stuff. I
Where's
think it's a
Kevin
really good
Durant land?
time. Exactly. Yeah. This
Yeah,
isn't just filler content. That's coming soon, but
it's
not
coming
right now.
soon. Yeah,
Um. So stay tuned for that, and stay tuned in the next few weeks when we get into. We'll probably start getting into our draft stuff pretty soon because that's coming up in
yeah,
November. Yeah. So that's gonna be really really fun. So thanks everyone for listening, and come back next Tuesday when hopefully there's gonna be some coaching news and maybe some other stuff.
yeah.